Hello Ipswich, welcome to the 2024 Select Board Committees Candidates Forum. My name is Brian Grasso and I'm the production manager here at ICAM. I'm currently sitting in for Beth Meyer, our executive director, who is unfortunately unable to be here due to being sick. We're going to start it off right away. So today we'll be hearing from two of our Select Board candidates, Sarah Player and Joni Soffren. Each candidate was asked to prepare an opening statement and closing statement related to why they are running for Select Board Committee. They were also asked to prepare brief answers to the two questions that we're going to ask them today, and these questions were given to our candidates prior to attending today. So we're going to start off the discussion today with Sarah, who will make her opening statement.
Thanks for running this, Brian. I'm Sarah Player. I am running for re-election to the Select Board. I have just completing my first 3-year term on the Select Board. I've also had the privilege of serving two 3-year terms on the school committee. I really feel like that experience with the school side of town government as well as the municipal side allows me to have a really good understanding of how those issues are connected. My most recent Select Board experience is I currently serve on the Electric Light Subcommittee, the Affordable Housing Trust, the 3A Task Force, and I'm currently the chair. In the past on the Select Board, I also served on water and wastewater. I feel like my subcommittee experience has given me some broad knowledge specifically about the utilities as well as housing. As chair, my job is to create timely agendas, to make sure the town business is moving forward. It's my responsibility to manage meetings, to make sure residents feel comfortable speaking, and that the other Select Board members can participate. I really think the role of the Select Board is to be the conduit between residents and Town Hall. I really feel like the Select Board as the executive board of the town is a critical position. I take the leadership role very seriously. I really try to come to meetings prepared, do my homework, and I think the lens that I try to look at issues through is, how can I vote on certain issues and most positively impact the most number of residents in the town.
All right, thank you for being here. And now we'll go over to you, Joni.
Okay, thank you again for having us in this forum. I'm Joni Soffren. I'm running for Select Board. I'm the opponent to Sarah, who's done a good job. I have a lot of respect for Sarah. I, however, have been involved in local politics for a very long time, starting from probably when my dad was a selectman when I was 11. So my interest goes way, way back. I did serve 3 terms on the Finance Committee. I was a selectman's appointee. So I did several years on the Finance Committee, and it's quite a cumbersome job when you have to go through those numbers, certainly at budget time. I only stepped down from the Finance Committee because I started spending my winters in the Virgin Islands. So I didn't think it was fair to keep the seat at the most important time of the year, which is budget time. I have continued to pay attention, either watching meetings at home or attending meetings. I do take advantage of citizens' queries when I have something I want to share or ask or say. And I just think that a lot of people, from the interactions that I've had, a lot of people feel their voices aren't being heard. And I've been to a few forums where that was the number one thing. They're not listening to us. We're not being heard. And I kind of see that too. So I just thought that perhaps I could kind of jump back in and try and be a voice for those who feel they don't have one, or for those who feel uncomfortable standing in front of a group like the Selectmen and stating their position or their feelings or asking questions. And I obviously am not afraid to do that. So I just want to be a voice for the people. I've lived in town my entire life. I watched it go from blue collar to what it is today. A lot of changes, a lot of great changes, a lot of sad changes. And I would just like to give my time to making Ipswich be the best it can be for everybody who lives here.
Alrighty, well, thank you for being here today. So we're going to jump right into the questions that we're going to ask both of you. So our first question is, affordable housing is an issue confronting municipalities all across the state. As a member of the select board, how would you go about accomplishing building community support for affordable housing, meeting state mandates for housing, and building a diverse community? So we'll start with Sarah.
Okay. I was pleasantly surprised to see affordable housing as your first question. It's a tricky one. I serve on the Affordable Housing Trust, and so we manage the money around around that trust fund board. We also partner with the Ipswich Housing Partnership, which deals with the policy side. They make policy recommendations around affordable housing. I think our job is to first familiarize and educate residents on affordable housing and what the need really is. Ipswich has a housing production plan that has investigated housing through town, and the recommendation is that we create a minimum of 29 affordable units a year to try to stay ahead of the curve on affordable housing. As far as meeting state mandates, right now the state legislation that's forward is the 3A Section 3A housing, which is about creating affordable housing, particularly around public transit. So I think the steps that we need to take around 3A are first to understand everything we can about what the state mandate is and what it isn't, that we partner with other neighboring communities so that we can work together on these ideas and these issues and learn from each other. I think the timing that Ipswich has, we're not making a decision on this until the fall, and a lot of towns are making the decision as we speak. So we'll be able to understand what the impacts of the decisions that they make are. And I think those lessons learned are going to be critical for us moving forward. And I think after we understand what the task is getting folks around the table. On the 3A task force now, we have folks who, affordable housing is their wheelhouse. Architects, we have passionate residents, we have our planners. So we have a lot of folks around the table who understand development, understand construction, and have great expertise. I think over the years, through community and committee work, I've realized when you ask people in Ipswich to participate, they do. And I think there's a lot more expertise out there than we know, and we have to tap into it. And I think your last question was about diversity. How do we build a diverse community? It doesn't just happen. It has to be a choice. Ipswich has a lot to offer folks, good schools, great natural resources, the beach. So people want to come here, but it's not accessible to them because it's not affordable. So if we're committed to making a diverse community, we have to commit to things like affordable housing and all sorts of housing, like workforce housing. We have a lot of seniors who, my aunt lives next door. She has a 3-bedroom home that she raised her family in, and she no longer needs a 3-bedroom home. It's hard to maintain. It's big, but there's not a lot of other units she can move to. So a lot of folks don't want to sell because they don't want to leave Ipswich. So I think it's a kind of a vicious cycle. And I think we need to support residents that are here, as well as bringing in new residents to diversify our town.
So now I'm going to pass this same question on to you, Joni.
Okay, this affordable housing in Ipswich is a very difficult subject in many ways, certainly for the elderly and the young folks. I myself live at Agawam Village. I know that if I did not have that opportunity and that establishment, that I would probably not be in town either. I have grandchildren. One has been able to buy a home. Another one is living at home with parents because they can't afford rent anywhere. A very sad story, I feel, is a friend of mine whose family has been here since the indigenous people, and she's looking as far as Maine. So this is a problem that's not just centralized to Ipswich, it's everywhere. I have obviously a lot to learn. I'm not part of the trust group, and I'm sure that there's a lot of knowledge that can be had by being more involved in that and knowing more than I will admit that I do know. I think that we need to sort of offer incentives to developers, perhaps. I think that if something could be done with the state in terms of 40Bs, that might be helpful in a way. State mandates, I kind of have a problem with. Number one, the 40B. I think it lets greed come into the picture. We have an issue right here in town at this time that we're watching it develop, as it's been developing over several years and probably will be several more. But the 40B is a problem to me because it gives the developers a lot of leeway, where I think that if we offered some incentives to some developers to do something to make it afford, there's no such thing as affordable housing in this town. But if we did something, some incentive for the developer to sort of work with us, that maybe something could be accomplished. I do admit there's a lot that I need to learn about where we are, where we're at. I quite frankly do not support the 3A mandated by the state. I believe that if the state's going to mandate things to a community, that they should be involved financially. I also am kind of happy to see that Marshfield, who voted no against the 3A, they won in court. So I would personally not support the 3A for Ipswich. I think that we need to be able to develop it as we see fit in a way that works for our town and our community, and not be told by the state how to do it, where to do it, and that kind of thing. So I kind of rather keep that in-house. So 3A, I'm not a fan of.
So now our second to last question that we want to ask, and it's caused a lot of discussion between Ipswich residents, and it involves the planning board. So who do you think should appoint the planning board, and why? So we'll start with you, Sarah.
Okay. I think the planning board is a really important regulatory board. I'm concerned that if we change the appointing authority to the select board purely, those appointments could become political. Town managers are professional managers with a lot of experience with a variety of planning boards, with economic development, and they have the opportunity, I think, to have more in-depth interviews with potential planning board candidates. I really think a hybrid approach is best. Perhaps the town manager could continue to have those in-depth interviews, bring an appointment to the select board for confirmation. So that would allow, I think folks are asking for some more checks and balances in the process. So I think a hybrid approach would be best. So we could continue to have those deep conversations with experienced planners and experienced managers like town managers, but then the select board could also have that final confirmation. So there would be, some more insight into that process.
All right. Now I'll pass this question over to you, Joni.
Okay, I will preface my response by saying I do have a lot of respect for Sarah and the time and effort she's given to the town as a whole. However, we are polar opposites, I think, on a lot of things, and this is another one. I think that the select board should be appointing the planning board. I was involved in a case that I got heavily involved in that was a planning board deal, and it was Aura. And it's a very difficult board. It's hard work for them. There's a lot that goes into it. You really need to know your stuff. But I also see that there's the potential for intimidation if it's a town manager appointee only. There has been some discussion about a planning board member who felt some pressure to vote a certain way by the higher ups, and I think that's absolutely wrong. That shouldn't be happening. With the two-tier that has been suggested, the town manager is still the one who's going to vet the candidates and then present who he feels is worthy. to the select board. So in my opinion, that's still kind of a town manager appointment and not a select board appointment. He's giving them a choice of who he thinks he's best, who is best, and perhaps they are, perhaps they're not. My biggest issue with that is that since the reign of George Howe, who manages town wonderfully for over 20 years, Ipswich has been an open door for town managers. They've come and gone, come and gone, come and gone. Quite frankly, I don't see this one staying much longer. So I really don't think that the town manager solely should have that authority to be appointing a board as important and critical as our planning board. I think the selectmen would replace that very nicely.
Alrighty, so now we are going to get into our closing statements to conclude this forum. So Joni, I'm going to have you start by offering your closing statement.
All right, well, for closing, I would just like to thank all the support that I've gotten from constituents, folks around town, phone calls, letters, signs in yards. It's encouraging. Yes, it's a lot of work. I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to learn what I don't know because I'm not that involved at this time. But I'm willing to do the job, and I'm willing to learn to do it well. I do feel that, as I've been told many times about our voices aren't being heard, nobody's listening, nobody hears us. And I see that on a certain level too. So I would like to be that voice for everybody, take everything and just weigh the subject, pros, cons, what's going to work best for the community, what's going to work best for the people of our community, and what's going to be the fairest way to go on issues for our community. So I just would like to say I thank everybody for the support, and I think I think that we have two good choices right here. Mm-hmm. And I just appreciate being on the ballot.
All right, thank you. And Sarah?
So I think the role of the select board is to improve lives of the residents in town. I think the town expects a certain level of services. They expect the lights to turn on, they expect the water to run, they expect the police to respond. But none of those things happen without strong policies and healthy budgets that can support those things, like training and equipment that our police force would need. I think I bring some experience to the table, both on the select board as well as on the school committee. I think that would be useful. I think it continues to help me look at issues clearly. I try to be level-headed and reasonable at meetings. I've created a lot of professional and positive relationships with town and school staff. I think that can only help as we try to solve really difficult problems moving forward. I think effective members of boards and committees are good communicators, are prepared, and they ask good questions. And they're not afraid, I think, to dig deep on the questions and the issues. So it's my pleasure to serve the town, and I respectfully request your vote on the 21st, and I appreciate the opportunity for your consideration. Thank you.
Alrighty, well this concludes our Select Board Candidates Forum, so I want to thank both of you for being here, and if you want to go and vote for either candidate, voting is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. May 21st, and it will be held at the YMCA in Ipswich.